Hi guys, welcome back to the Excel Finance. This is VK, and here we are back with the video number 2, how to create the best budget planner ever using the Google Sheets. So just to recap, the previous intro video had actually shown you the whole concept, the whole model, and how the model is presenting to you the numbers that you give to the model through the financial drivers, right? So essentially, I've showed you the model, and I gave you a concept of the front end and the back end. Now, this particular video is gonna be referring to the budget tab or settings tab. You can call it whatever you want, but this is pretty much where your budgeted amounts must be input, and you can actually use it as a tool for personal finance to see where your finance stand right now and how can you kind of grow them and develop in which areas you think that you might lower a bit your expenses. Maybe you can increase some more expenses, maybe you can increase your savings. So this is the tool, and I've started already giving you some information and some structure, but nevertheless, this spreadsheet will be available for free to download, so link below. Obviously, as always, I'm sorry for a bit of a self-advertisement. If you want a complete budget planner, which we have seen already, then it's the link to buy it. Link in the description to buy it. If you want to work with me so I can create a budget planner for you, then the link to my Fiverr gig is also there. You can see all the reviews and different models which I've built. So it's up to you guys, but the key point again through this videos is to teach and give you the logic how to create your own one. So let's start by looking at a couple of things right now. So we have seen that this is what we want. You can see right now this is a structure, and this is something that we want to recreate and have of our own. And again, we have on the left hand side we have the financial information. On the right hand side we have a bit of a dashboard which we can use, and again, it's up to you the way you want to structure it, but I've started, so this will be available to you, but nevertheless, I've started to create our own one right now. I haven't yet finished. As you can see, I've started to build a new one. And again, I want you guys to complete it and then let me know how you end up by doing this. So essentially, let's start by the concept of the front end. The front end is where you create your financial drivers such as income. You will then obviously income, expenses, debt, savings. You can divide expenses in, potentially you can divide them into the bills versus the actual expenses, bills being recurring. But the great thing about what I do like about this model is that you can, as I said, you can further categorize your income in terms of the active versus passive. You can categorize expenses, needs versus wants, debt in terms of high priority, low priority, savings, long term and short term. So the idea is we start building our income, right? So our income financial driver, and by simply think about this, the number of important columns that we really want, because the budget has been built across the whole year. Therefore, we need to budget for the year ahead. So in terms of the income, we will start by dividing that by providing the column number 1. So it's a category, and again, category can be my salary. We can change to the my partner's salary, and obviously we can play whether it's an active or passive income. The way to do this is actually quite simple. You just select the range that you really want. As you can see right now, I've selected, go to the insert and select the tick box option. So there you go, and that it appears. So if I'll start selecting active, both, you will see how that it will obviously reflect. And because I've already given a bit of a formulas on the right hand side in terms of the dashboard, you will see how this is reflecting right now. And then obviously we do have the budget, and the budget call. So we have category, we have active, which will differentiate, which categorize between active and passive. Then we will have the budget. column, and then we will start by introducing the monthly columns, and this is simply by typing, as I'm in the UK right now, so for me it's first we our date is structured by putting the date first, then a month and a year, and then this is just purely just introducing the month of the year, and then it's pretty much done for you as well if you want to change. And then the last column across the whole year will be totals, by which we will just purely summing up the numbers between January and December of this year. However, one important thing you will see right now is that what I have done is that I've tried to maximize the automation behind this table. Therefore, what I've done, because the budgeted column is used for the purpose of automation, and therefore if I'll delete this, I'll just show to you one example. Essentially, what I typically do is that in the column of January, I will start by typing equals, then I will go back to our budgeted column. I will lock the column only in terms of the referencing numbers, and then I Control C, as you can see, Control D, and there you go. It's kind of it sums up precisely. It sums up. It kind of transfers the numbers, and it's and from the budgeted to the January. Sorry, it's not sum up. Sum up will be looking at this below, and this is pretty much what we need, and this is not exactly what we want. What we want is to make sure that a sum between these numbers is actually here. Perfect. So the rest is actually quite simple. So we will select this column January, Control C. Let's select all the range here, and then Control R. Boom, done. So this is it. So this is pretty much done. And the key is that you should be doing this type of, you can be doing this type of structure quite easily in respect to your income, expenses, debt, and savings. So it's actually quite easy. So you can do as much as possible of this. So go for it. Try to understand and go through each one of these details, because I really want to focus on this is kind of the basis of the front end. And again, it's up to you to the way you want to do the color schemes, etc. But nevertheless, it's actually quite simple. So once again, to summarize, to recap, the front end, you just start by typing your financial drivers. So let's say in our case it was an income. Then next we'll define the categories, because we can have different categories in terms of, then we'll differentiate active versus passive. We'll create a column budget, and then moving forwards we'll create the monthly budgets and the total. When we're introducing the amounts in the budgeted, this is the expected amounts that we want to input, and then we will, for the January, we will just, starting from the January, we will reference the budget amount, and we will log the column, as you can see right now. So it's, and then Control C, Control D, and this is the Control down, and then done. And then just copying again the whole month of January, Control C, selecting all the range, Control R. Lastly, we just need to make sure we sum up all the amounts between the January and December. And this is done. The concept is actually the same for the expenses, for the debt, for the savings. It's the same concept, so you don't have to worry about this. And once you've done it, you'll see how cool it actually is when you're able to see this kind of building up. One last thing in terms of once you build the financial drivers, my recommendation is do what's left remaining or left to be budgeted, which is, again, we know that our budget is actually quite simple to do. So what you will do is actually, we'll just show it to you. So we need, okay, so this is on the positive side, this is where the back end starts, and this is something that I really want to focus right now. So this is, we have done this part, which is incredible, very well done to you, and then create a specific column which is for the left remaining and the budget, and again the month and the totals. Just follow the same logic and the same principle. Now this is where all the fun part starts, and this is where the back end is, and this is where most of our not most, but everything, all the calculations, computations are done at the back end. The only thing which we'll need is just to refer to the to the front end. And I'll start by a couple of key formulas. You can see right now that I've started to select different areas specifically in terms of the layout, to help me to differentiate and to understand where the data comes from and how to calculate the data. So because we have done the income, right, I've started by simply putting the name of the income to make sure I understand this is the income. I'll refer, as you can see, the whole concept of rectangular within the green kind of a borders, because I know that all the numbers within this border will be referring to the income. And then this is where the fun part starts. This is where our first formula starts to kick in, and this is where we have something which we call array function. If I'll delete this equal sign, you will see that I've done the formula, array formula, to make sure that our table, which we have done in the front end, is reflected in the back end. And the way, probably, I mean, you can do it in the different ways, but for me, I like to do the array function, which means I will start by typing equal, and then I will open a curly brackets, and then what I will do is I'll show you right now. So what I have done is just I purely selected these columns. Let's say selected the column B from row 8 till 19. I lock the columns, put comma, and then I'll start again. I've selected column C between rows 8 and 19, then column D between rows 8 and 19, etc, etc, etc. So when I'll completely select all these columns, when I press enter, it will automatically give me the same exact, as you can see, setup which we have in the front end. But the really good thing is that now we are able to perform computations here. And the key, actually, which I really like, because the tick boxes, remember, if something is ticked in a formula per se, it reflects as a true. What, for example, in this case, it was our salary and partner salary. Now, if something is not actually ticked in terms of this is false. So once you've done it, and what I encourage you is actually, because this spreadsheet I was giving for you for free, just try to repeat the same process with the same formulas and try to understand how it's done. But nevertheless, the really cool thing comes right now, because from this point we will start the second most important, the formula which I really like, and we're gonna go through, and I probably can have like the whole course on the query function, but there we go, it's a query function. But nevertheless, it allows us to automate, which means that it allows us with one formula, it allows us to actually to filter, to summarize, to group, to order. So it's pretty much the big one for me. One of the, I think, because I do prefer actually Google Sheets in comparison to the Excel, I think that's one of the formulas that kind of elevates for me in terms of my personal view. But nevertheless, comments below if you like the array function. If not, if you really want to understand more about it, how to use it. But I've given you the example here. So essentially, because we categorize our income in active versus passive, what we want to understand is, just by using one formula, we want to understand what exactly is the sum of the active income. So what we will do right now, as you can see, is that this is a query function which we have. And so I will drag it for you to have a look. So what we have done is that we've typed query, and we said that actually what we want, so I've typed, just a second, so just to reflect. Okay, so what we have done is that we have selected the whole range here, which reflects kind of, I do prefer selecting the whole range. Potentially you could just select the totals, but no, sorry, you actually should be getting the whole range, because we are referring to the true versus the false. So I would definitely recommend selecting the whole range, which is in essence referencing the salaries across the whole year, including the budget, year, and totals. And what we will do right now is that we will say that we will select the sum of column Q, which means by column Q, this is our totals for the year. And this is what the best part, that we just start typing where C, which is referring to the column C, is equal to true. And this is something that obviously it's really simple yet quite powerful, because we don't have to come to use the filters, we don't have to use any sort or group function. So just purely selecting the whole range, selecting the sum of column Q, which this is the one, and then where C equals true, which means that this is the column C, and this is where the tick boxes are. Just by pressing the sum, just pressing the enter, it shows us now how easy it is actually to make sure we filter it. And the best part is that the only thing that you need to change to calculate the passive income is to make sure you just change in C column from true to false, and this gives you automatically the passive income. There we go. So again, the same formula, the same range, but just purely changing the column C from true to false, it will give you actually your passive income. Obviously then what I've done, if I've summed up just to make sure everything is aligned, so this is purely very easy to do. And the last thing which I really like to do is actually to understand the percentage of the income, what active percentage of income the passive income is, and the active is, because just trying to understand where we are. Obviously potentially want a passive income as much as possible, but nevertheless it's something to reflect upon. What the idea behind is that to make sure you are actually dividing the sum which the query function gave us, divided by the totals, and it will give us the percentage. The same will go for the passive, so we have divided that 18,000 divided by the total. The next bit, which is really important, I think this is something really cool, and try to understand the logic behind it, is that for the Spark line, this is used specifically for the Spark line, is that number one, we are trying now to understand the difference between obviously the active and the passive income. So what I've done, if I've done a specific if statement which says that if the percentage of the active income as a percentage of the income is greater than 100%, it's well, eventually, because the Spark line is referring to as percentage, we refer as a whole, right? So we will say it's 100%. Otherwise, let's keep the remaining 83.33%. And the same, and then in the next row, we will just say 100% minus actually the 83.33% of the previous row. So it kind of gives us the calculation behind the difference between the active and passive income. And the same goes here in terms of the passive and the logic behind the difference between passive and active income. So have a look how this is structured, but this is very cool, and I'll show you right now what can we do with this. Moving on, we do have the trend graph, which I do really like. What I meant by this is that this is the trend graph which I kind of have here. And then if we change, let's say in April we have 10K, and then we have in May 15K, and then July unfortunately 2.5, then go back to 10. So you will see it kind of like shows you how the salary, your income jumps up and down, up and down, up and down. And the same goes here. So to recreate this, I will go back here. The only thing which we need to start by referencing the way I do this. I think it's quite simple, and there is no need to overcomplicate this. So you just select the month, which comes from the array function, and then just drag it around. The same goes for the 9,000, which is a sum, the total, as you can see right now. So just copy and drag it out, and you will see that's the only thing that you really need to do for the trend graph, let's say, etc. So, and finally, just to summarize, so this is a dynamic graph, which gains something which I do really love, because once again, it's a query function. What we are doing with the query function, again, we are selecting the whole range of our income, and then because we are creating a dynamic graph with the references to the sources or categories of income, we will selecting the column B, which is referring to the name of the actual income, and then we will say where Q, which is referencing to the totals, where Q is not null, therefore we are definitely don't want to see our categories with zero income. And also I'm adding a specific reference that Q is different from zero. And then by the last thing which we will be adding to the query function is that we'll put order by Q in descending. Therefore the salaries will be listed by their amounts in the descending order, and pretty much it. And then just press enter, and there you go. What I wanted to show you before, because I know that video is actually getting too long, and because this is going to be available for you to try and to work it all out. But the last thing before, I want to show you again. So let's say if I'll raise it to 10K, right? And then that's the only, and then this income, maybe it's I know, income 2, let's put, but that's the only, but this is the only active income which I have, which is 10K. So you have seen that everything has changed to the 10K, annual 120K. You will see now how the difference is making in terms of this is the spark line that I was referring to. And this is something that, again, have a look, but essentially why I really like this and why I really want to emphasize this spark line here, because once again it's a dynamic spark line which is linked on the inputs of the front end and calculations at the back end. So when I go back and refer to, so you can see this is why I really like. The only thing with the spark line, again, I'll definitely need to make a further detailed video how to do this, but essentially you create a sparkline formula function, and obviously from that point you'll select this range which we have between 71 and 28%, right? Then you start by typing that we want a chart type of bar, and then we select our color, and then pretty much select the colors, and that's it. So and actually it will automatically will be calculating the whole kind of the range. You can see the reflection of 71% versus 28% which we have. So that's something that quite I think it's quite cool to have, and that's why that we had this specific logic how to calculate the difference between the active and the passive. And the same goes to the expenses, your needs versus your wants, your debt, high, low, savings, long-term, short-term. So this is pretty much how it looks right now. All I want you guys to have right now is the final bit, which I really want to do with you now, is that now I'll do this quickly, so you and see whether I'll do this right. So number one, for the trend line graph, what I really okay, so let me have a look. So we want an area, but what we want, if I'll switch to the columns, etc., you will see I will need to, if I'll delete the dates, perfect. So what I really want to show to you, I hope you're seeing this right now, and you are. So I've selected my color. I'll just select this, Control C, Control V, and then it's up to you the way you want to play with this in terms of the size and the way that you know, if you have, it's up to you to decide how to make sure that your dashboard kind of looks really awesome and etc. But you can see right now, so something which I do personally, I do like to do, because I don't necessarily need to see the values. I've seen the values on the left hand side, but this is purely for the graphical representation to kind of create a cool dashboard. And if you can integrate this into much bigger kind of a I'd say graph, I think it would be much better. But well, I'll remove the major grid lines. So it kind of gives a cleaner look. And again, once I double click, you can see these kind of squares. What I can do is actually I can drag them. If I'll drag them, once again, sorry, I'll reselect this. I'll drag this. Double click. Let's see if it works. Double click. And this is the last thing. Perfect. So, and the last thing, I want to double click chart style, and I want to remove the border. And there you go. So how cool is that? So, and essentially the best way to do this, sorry, I'll do the double click because it's something I really like. I like it to be smooth, and let's see what happens. If I'll say May, I actually got my 20K, which is amazing. And there you go, it changes. Unfortunately, September was not a great month, so I only have 7.5K. So a bit of a dip here. So essentially, this is how it all kind of works together. And let's see, we're 25 minutes right now into this. The only thing, probably the last thing, which is really good, is that I'll select with you the graph which you have right now. And I really like, in terms of the pie chart, maybe a dynamic, what we have is a dynamic bar chart. I'll select this again. We'll change the colors to make sure it reflects our income. I'll Control C, I'll go back to the front and Control V, and then just purely, this is an easy thing right now, just to make sure we are readjusting to make sure we fit within the limits, but nevertheless. And then the chart board color removed, done. So there you go. How cool is that? So you have actually right now your kind of income dashboard, and again, everything is dynamic based on what we have created. So I'm kind of pleased with this. The last thing, because you will need to try just to recreate, if you can please, the expenses, the debts and savings. But what I wanted, just the last thing I promise you, is that you will have to, as I said, you've created the left to budget, which is left remaining from the budget. The formula is quite simple here, but you'll look, so it's pretty much your income, and then you will be subtracting all your expenses, debts, savings, etc., to make sure whatever is left. And the last thing, what I really want to do is follows the same logic. Number one, we will be dividing the overall, let's say, the overall expenses by the income, as you can see here, and it will give us percentage. At the moment, 18.11%. The same goes for debt and savings for the remaining. So far the budget looks really good. Sorry, I'll delete this. And then the last thing is just to follow the same logic for the spark line, is that you remember that we create a specific if function. Therefore, if the expense as a percentage of income is higher than 100%, it will be 100%, because spark line cannot go beyond 100%. So it will fill completely the spark line. If not, it's the 18.11%, and the rest follows the same logic. So once again, this is a recap. This will be able for you to try to complete, and please complete this, and create a copy, complete this, and give me the comments if you made it, maybe some screenshots, etc. In the next video, we'll be focusing on the expense trackers, which is another really important thing of the budget planner, before jumping to more specific monthly tabs. But yeah, I think this is it. So if you want the complete model, again, sorry for the self-advertisement, it's kind of becoming a must now, but if you enjoy the content, there is a model which is available to download. There is a 40% discount for this. If you want, this is for free. If you want to work with me on Fiverr, so I can create, like, this is just kind of a tip of the iceberg, what we can do in Google Sheets. But if you want to work together to create your best budget planner, because I want to know your vision to this, then again, I'll give my Fiverr link below, and you will see my reviews project. So hopefully it will give you certain reassurance and confidence in me. So once again, thank you. It's nearly half an hour of me talking. That's probably you're tired of me. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.